She had been treated by a doctor for quite some time, and he'd given her Ozempic to lose weight 3 times already. Then she received another apparent Ozempic pen in September, but this time she seems to have received the fake medication.
And what's happened to her then since then?
She was hospitalized. She suffered cramps and dangerously low blood sugar, so she ended up in hospital and was treated as a matter of urgency for this condition, which would have been pretty serious. The Austrian Health Safety Department says this indicates that the fake pen may actually have contained insulin instead of the drug in the Ozempic pens, which is semaglutide, and gives you a feeling of fullness. I mean, insulin would be a completely different drug and could indeed lead to these types of complications. Now, her lawyer says the woman was lucky not to have died, and Austrian investigators are also very clear that the people are risking their health in a big way by using these pens. They say there have been several cases already where people have been hospitalized after using this fake drug, and the country's federal criminal office says they suffered such serious health problems that this could have led to their deaths without medical intervention.
And I understand there's concern that some of these pens may have made their way into the UK and to other countries in Europe.
Exactly. Just in recent days, the European Medicines Agency issued a warning about these pens, saying they have been found at wholesalers both in the EU and in the UK. They seem to have originated from wholesalers in Germany and Austria, but they have seemingly spread across the EU at this stage. And there are serious warnings in France, in Germany, in Austria, as you say, that these pens are most likely circulating. The authorities in many cases aren't sure if they've arrived at doctor surgeries yet or in pharmacies, but they're certain that these pens are in the wholesale loop and that people need to be very, very careful in terms of using them.
OK, Jenny, thanks very much for that. That's the journalist Jenny Vitt there on those fake Ozempic pens.
Now, the man behind the UK's first community-led oyster and seagrass restoration project is being recognised for his work by the National Lottery Awards. Danny Renton has been given national acclaim for his work on the Argyll and Bute-based Seawilding project, and he joins us now. Danny, well, first of all, you must be delighted.
Hello. Absolutely delighted, yes. We've been, our Seawilding team has been presented with our award by Ray Mears this morning. So we've had a glorious day out on a boat on Loch Craigish, lovely sunshine, visiting the projects. And yeah, we're feeling very chuffed.
So tell us more about what this Seawilding project is doing.
Yeah, so what we're doing is Loch Craigish is a very sort of typical west coast sea loch, and it suffers all the sort of problems that these sea lochs have, which is, you know, we have scallop dredging, we have problems with aquaculture, some of the environmental problems to do with that. And over people's lifetimes, we've seen a real collapse in biodiversity here. And some of the old timers would talk about the salmon and the giant oysters and the big scallops and things like that used to be in the loch and that aren't anymore. So what we're doing is trying to put back some of these things that have disappeared, and notably native oysters and seagrass. And so both these things are keystone species. They're really important for healthy biodiversity. 95% of both these species have disappeared around the UK coastline. So here in Loch Craigish, we're putting them back, and we're really researching methodologies for doing this, and then teaching other communities how they too can do the same.
And how do you prevent it being destroyed again, or even while you're doing this by the likes of dredging?
Well, in our sea loch, I mean, a lot of the damage is done. And so a lot of that biodiversity that used to be here has disappeared. But the areas that we're operating in are in relatively shallow areas. So it's not the sort of place that a dredger would be able to get to, for example. But we're very mindful about the fact that this activity still continues in our sea loch. It shouldn't do, in our view. But this very destructive form still continues. But we do it around the edges of the sea loch where these things are protected, and so far we're having success.
Tell us about the success then. What have you managed to do?
Well, the aim of the project is to put down 1 million native oysters over a 5-year period, and we've put down around 350,000 so far. So it's the largest project of its kind in the UK, and what we're really showing that is it's possible. And once you start doing this and restoring the beds that used to be here, we're seeing a real uptick in biodiversity, and so that's with the native oysters. So it's very exciting, and other projects are starting off around Scotland as a result of this. And with the seagrass, seagrass is very difficult. It's a really important habitat for commercial fish as a spawning ground in the nursery. We have about 5 hectares in the sea loch. We have about 80 hectares where we think it should be. And what we're doing is trialling different methodologies to expand those existing meadows that we have. And we're year 3 and we're having success with that. But over the next couple of years, we think we're going to have some real breakthroughs.
And will there be a kind of payback for all of this? Will you be able to actually eventually harvest these oysters, for example?
Yeah, but that's the idea. The idea is that we'll put down hundreds of thousands, we're 1 million, and then we'll see self-sustaining beds of native oysters and we'll be able to set up a community fishery. That's the idea, and that would be very exciting. It's a very sort of high value product, and so that would be a great benefit to our community, and we can create green jobs around that. But the ultimate idea is really just to restore the biodiversity, and we think there's going to be lots of benefits for our community as a result in terms of wildlife tourism, of snorkeling, and this potential community fishery. So there's a fantastic future if we can crack it.
Danny, thanks very much indeed for speaking to us. That's Danny Renton, who has been leading that Seawilding project.
It's 1 o'clock now and you're listening to Lunchtime Live with Hayley Miller and Barry Stewart.
In the next half hour, a man who killed a young mother after being released to her home on bail has been jailed for 23 years.
A furious reaction from Israel to the UN Secretary-General's comments on the conflict in Gaza.
And MP
Gaza.
And MP
Gaza.
And MP
Gaza.
And MP
Gaza.